Fame is a dream, isn't it? That golden glow of the red carpet, the roar of the crowd, it's a seductive illusion of a life lived above the rest of us. We watch, we admire, we might even feel a pang of envy. But what happens when that dream shatters into a nightmare? When the person adored by millions isn't just gone, but taken, murdered? In that horrifying moment, the world freezes. The media swarms, and the line between a search for truth and the hunt for a sensational story simply vanishes. In the United States, the reality of justice is a cold awakening. A chilling statistic reveals that nearly half of all murder cases go unsolved, leaving families shattered by questions that may never be answered. And when the victim is a celebrity, that blinding spotlight doesn't guarantee a resolution. In fact, it often casts long, dark shadows, twisting the quest for truth and leaving behind a legacy of nothing but haunting doubt. In the summer of 1997, Gianni Versace wasn't just a fashion designer, he was a king. His Miami Beach mansion stood like a modern-day palace, a testament to the vibrant, decadent world he had built. He dressed royalty and pop icons, from Princess Diana to Madonna, living a life that seemed utterly untouchable. On the morning of July 15th, Versace took his usual, peaceful walk to a nearby cafe. As he returned to the iconic steps of his home, two gunshots didn't just cut through the humid air. They ripped a hole in the fabric of the fashion world. Gianni Versace, the Titan, was dead at 50. The world recoiled in horror. But this was no random act of violence. It was the final, explosive chapter in a cross-country reign of terror. The killer was Andrew Cunanan, a 27-year-old who had already murdered 4 other men and was the focus of a desperate, multi-state manhunt. Overnight, Cunanan became the most wanted man in America. The investigation devolved into a global media spectacle. It was a perfect storm for a tabloid frenzy. Celebrity, unimaginable wealth, and a killer who was both brilliant and terrifyingly elusive. Every detail, every rumor, was broadcast 24/7. News channels ran wild, speculating on the motive. The most pervasive theory, driven relentlessly by the media, claimed the murder was revenge because Versace had supposedly infected Cunanan with HIV. This narrative took over completely until an autopsy delivered a stunning rebuke. Cunanan was HIV negative. This firestorm of media coverage was a double-edged sword. While it made Cunanan's face inescapable, it also crippled the investigation. Investigators believed that news reports detailing their every move, like tracking a stolen car's cell phone, likely tipped Cunanan off, giving him time to destroy the phone and vanish once more. The pressure was suffocating, turning glamorous Miami Beach into a city paralyzed by fear. For 8 agonizing days, the world held its breath. The manhunt finally ended on a houseboat, just miles from Versace's mansion, where Cunanan took his own life. He died without a word of explanation, leaving a void that has since been filled with decades of speculation, the very definition of a legacy of haunting questions. 50 years before Versace's murder, another crime had gripped the nation, a crime that would curdle into the most infamous unsolved murder in American history. In 1947, Los Angeles was the city of dreams, a place where a hopeful young woman from Massachusetts named Elizabeth Short could arrive, imagining her name in lights. She was 22, beautiful, and like so many, chasing a break that never came. Instead, she would find her fame only in death. On January 15, 1947, a mother walking with her child in a vacant lot stumbled upon a grotesque sight. At first, she thought it was a discarded mannequin. It was the naked, severed body of Elizabeth Short. The crime scene was a chamber of horrors. Her body had been surgically cut in half, drained of every drop of blood, and her face was carved from the corners of her mouth to her ears, creating a ghastly, permanent grin known as a Glasgow smile. What came next was a media frenzy of a kind the world had never seen. Reporters swarmed the crime scene, trampling and contaminating evidence. Some even began answering tip lines at the police department, hoarding information from detectives to protect their own sensational scoops. Inspired by the film noir The Blue Dahlia, the press gave her a new name, a dark and alluring moniker that would eclipse her true identity forever, the Black Dahlia. The newspapers weren't just reporting a crime, they were forging a dark legend. They painted Elizabeth Short as a man-crazy delinquent and a promiscuous party girl, implying she was a sex worker to justify her fate. These lurid, often baseless stories built a public caricature so powerful it became nearly impossible for investigators to see past it. To sift through the dozens of false confessions, police had to conceal her actual cause of death, a brain hemorrhage from savage blows to the head. But the damage was done. The killer even taunted the press directly, mailing them a package containing Short's personal documents, with letters clipped from movie ads. The Los Angeles Examiner's circulation skyrocketed. In their ruthless hunger for a story, one paper's editors called Elizabeth's mother, pretending her daughter had won a beauty contest, just to bleed personal details from her before finally revealing she had been brutally murdered. After 3 years, the official investigation was closed. Over 150 suspects were considered, but not a single arrest was ever made. Many believe the media's monstrous creation of the Black Dahlia myth is precisely why the murder of Elizabeth Short remains a cold, dark mystery, her true story buried beneath a mountain of headlines. Decades later, in our hyper-connected world of instant news and social media, the volatile mix of celebrity and crime proved just as corrosive. By 2001, Ashton Kutcher was the charming, rising star of that 70s show. On the night of February 21st, he had a date with a 22-year-old fashion student, Ashley Ellerin. He called her that evening to confirm their plans, but he ended up running late. When Kutcher finally arrived at her Hollywood home around 10:45 p.m., he knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Silence. He peered through a window and saw what he assumed were red wine stains on the carpet. Figuring she was annoyed that he was so late and had left without him, he turned and walked away. The next morning, Ashley Ellerin's roommate found her dead. She had been stabbed 47 times in a frenzied, brutal attack. The red stains Kutcher had seen were not wine. They were her blood. When he heard the news, Kutcher testified that he freaked out and went straight to the police, terrified his fingerprints were on her door. The involvement of a major celebrity catapulted the case into the national spotlight. Kutcher was never a suspect, but his connection guaranteed a relentless media cycle. The killer, however, was a different kind of predator. He was Michael Gargiulo, an air conditioner repairman who would be nicknamed the Hollywood Ripper and the boy next door killer. Gargiulo used his friendly, unassuming job to gain access to women's homes, stalking them for weeks before striking with a knife. The investigation was a slow, agonizing crawl. Gargiulo was meticulous, leaving almost no evidence behind. But in 2008, he slipped up. During another attack, his intended victim, Michelle Murphy, courageously fought him off and survived. The DNA he left behind was the final, damning link police needed to connect him to the murders of Ashley Ellerin and another woman, Maria Bruno. When the case finally went to trial, Ashton Kutcher's testimony was treated as the main event. His story provided a chilling, minute-by-minute timeline of Ellerin's final hours. But the media frenzy surrounding his appearance exposed the central problem in these cases. The celebrity angle, however tangential, eclipses the victims themselves. In headline after headline, it became the Ashton Kutcher murder trial, a narrative that centered the famous witness instead of the women whose lives had been stolen. In 2019, Michael Gargiulo was convicted and sentenced to death. But while a killer was brought to justice, the case is a stark reminder of how celebrity becomes the only lens through which we are allowed to see the tragedy. What do you think? In cases like these, is justice ever truly served? Or does the spectacle itself create too many shadows for the truth to survive? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you find yourself haunted by these stories, be sure to check out our next video on the world's most baffling unsolved mysteries. The glare of the spotlight is blinding. From the sun-drenched steps of a Miami mansion to a dark, vacant lot in Los Angeles, these stories reveal the terrifying underbelly of our obsession with fame. When a celebrity is pulled into the orbit of a murder investigation, the case ceases to be about forensics and evidence. It becomes public property, a spectacle for mass consumption. The pressure on law enforcement becomes unbearable, and in all that noise, the truth is often the first thing to get lost. The legacies of Gianni Versace, Elizabeth Short, and Ashley Ellerin are not just about their lives and tragic deaths. They are about the disturbing way their stories were twisted and told. It's a powerful reminder that when the red carpet turns into a crime scene, the hunt for truth is often the first casualty. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss the next video from Deep Crimes Uncovered. We'll see you for the next story.